Hello, hello, everybody. Look at that, Bat Duck. 2 weeks, I remembered to unmute. And I'll tell you why. Audio issues that I fixed last week. So, I am super excited. I've got a mix of some people who have been here before, so some familiar faces to our channel, and some people who are familiar in the community but haven't been on our channel before. So I am going to go around and I'm going to have everybody introduce themselves. So, Graham, we're actually going to start with you.
Oh, start with me. Oh, the pressure.
Surprise!
Oh, goodness. Hi, everybody. My name is Graham, or Graemecrackerz. You can find me on an assortment of channels, usually as a player. You can find me on, like, Polished Cryptid's channel, my own channel, which is Graemecrackerz, and then a few other channels in the future that I will not include until they've been announced. But yeah, I play D&D, and I DM.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming to hang out. I'm excited to get to know you a little bit more. And next we're going to go to Mel.
Hey everybody, I'm Meliora Henning. You can find me on Twitter with my name, Meliora Henning. Also my website. Keep up with my world building that I'm going to be doing. A couple of fun video-based projects that are going to be coming around the corner. I also do artwork. And
I also do voice acting, so keep an eye out for that.
and Mel is an awesome voice actor. I've gotten to hear just in some like off stream, like when we were practicing stuff, whatever. So yeah, I'm excited to have you on finally. Let's see. Next we'll go to Reed.
Hi, I'm Reed. I'm the producer of the Games Tavern. I also am the dungeon master on Whiskey, Magic, and Destruction on the Games Tavern Network.
And I also do voice acting, too.
and
a variety of other strange voices as requested anytime you need them.
But I also, you can find us on twitch.tv/The Games Tavern, as well as on Patreon, where we do all sorts of cool stuff for nerdy people. And, also I show up when other people ask me to, like GamerMomLuna. Anytime she asks, I'm there.
Aw. Well, I was so honored to be on your channel the other night, and it worked out great that you were able to come on here tonight. So I'm always happy to have you back, and we can talk a little more too a little bit later about the fundraiser that we are teaming up for next month. So yeah. Let's see. Next, we're going to go over to Rich, who is staying up extremely late to hang out with us tonight.
No problem. My name's Rich. I'm at HatchlingDM on Twitter. You can find all my sort of social media posts there. I'm the creator of Inspiriles, which is the first TTRPG to teach sign language. We're going to release the book in June, and the PDF, it will come with both languages included, BSL and ASL.
I'm so excited about this. I've gotten to play test it once. I'm hoping to be able to jump in again in the future, but
yeah, absolutely,
yeah, so much fun. I love the concept of teaching sign language, so I think that's a great idea. And next we'll go over to Aubrey.
I'm Aubrey. I am the GM of Goblets and Gaze and AnimamAgere. Goblets and Gaze is a Pathfinder 2e podcast set in my own homebrew world. We are in the middle of our second season for that, and AnimamAgere just started like last week. It is a horror-based City of Mist game inspired by my love of horror and all things spooky, and the Persona series, set in a bunch of people at college to start having weird things happen to them, and they have to investigate. It's a lot of fun.
Awesome. That sounds very cool, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to check that out a little further. So, well, usually what happens is I start the night off with a question, and then we open the rest of it up to our chat. So chat, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them right in the chat, and one of our mods will make sure that we get them. And the question that I'm going to start with tonight is a little bit convoluted, but somebody asked me it last night and said, you have to ask this on Tales from the Tavern. And I went, okay. And then they asked me the question. I went, actually, that could be a lot of fun. So the question is, if you could cast Speak with Dead and Speak with Plants, what piece of furniture would you talk to?
Oh, that's simple. The couch.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do I want to know why?
It's going to tell me if my kids were jumping on it or not. As well as if it has change that I need to be looking for.
Ah, yes.
I wouldn't want to cast in other places because I'm afraid of the stories they might tell.
Yeah, that was the conversation that happened afterwards. I'm like, I don't want to know. I don't want to talk to like the walls or anything. Nope, not a chance.
Yeah, I think I would probably cast it on a door. I mean, think about all the interesting people they've seen come in and out. I think that would be a enlightening conversation, especially if you're like, go to a bar or, a shopping center or something, a furniture shopping center.
Oh, that would
If
be
I
cool.
was a detective, the way I could use that spell.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing. Yeah.
The same sort of difference with like a gaming table. Like imagine all the stories that the table's been through, all those adventures, all the D&D adventures, all the TTRPG sessions.
That thing will hold so much emotional trauma right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
And spillages.
Yeah.
Oh God, I buy so much secondhand furniture. I just like, God, I was like, I don't know. I have this super old bookshelf behind me that like looks like it's been around forever. So I actually think I probably do it on that. Simply because it's like so old. I'd actually like wanted to know like its stories. Because it looks to be pretty old, and it's probably been through at least a few thrift shops.
Yeah. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Seen some people.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I don't. Trying to think. Like I guess I would probably want to cast it on, of all things, my bureau. My dad refinished it for me when I was 16, and it's an antique, and so like I would be interested to learn about like its history and where it came from before and all of that stuff. So yeah, that would be kind of neat.
I don't know why we went for furniture. Got that question straight to furniture.
Right?
Did you do your homework? Yes, Dad. Well, let's ask the table.
Right.
Let's ask the table right now, and the ceiling lamp.
Man, it's one of those situations like the film Labyrinth, where one drawer is telling the truth and the other one's liar.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Depending on which one you open. Yeah.
Oh man, that would be funny. All right. Well, we've already gotten our first question from chat. So Ray Mayhem would like to know, how do you feel about players having pets in games? Not familiars, but random creature pets. There is a reason she's asking this, and it's because she just acquired a porg in our Star Wars game.
Loaded question.
Yep.
Yep.
I'm always down for it. It gives the players like more fun things to play around with. I have a very specific rule like when it involves with familiars and pets. Like in my games, especially it's like I don't want there to be any consequences for them specifically. If you get you get a dog and you just want to have a dog, go for it. The only time it, like ever consequences come into play is like if you are deciding you now want to use that dog in combat, there are consequences to that.
That's
or,
fair.
You know, you're that's when because for Animam specifically, one of the players was like, I have a cat, and I just went, okay, and then I didn't realize they were going to be taking the cat everywhere with them. And then I was like, you're taking this cat into quite possibly might be life or death situations. I'm gonna just say, I sort of jumped at their DMs at one point and just went, I am more than happy to let you have this cat and do anything you want with it, but if you continue bringing like the cat into life or death situations, I'm gonna one, use it against you. It's already happened multiple times where they've had to choose between the cat or their friends, and they've always chosen the cat. That's caused problems. Or something could happen to the cat depending on how you roll. I don't want it to happen, but it is a thing that you're putting now on the table. So therefore, it is a thing that could happen.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think that, I guess my answer is twofold. Before I ever start a campaign, I always give like a consent sheet. And, a lot of people, have had pets growing up and don't really want to experience that trauma in a game. So for games in which that is, more than happy to have them have pets. I always declare, like, your pets will always be unharmed. They will never be in any danger. They might run away for a little bit. They'll come back.
Yeah.
But really, it's to keep all of my players happy. And if they want to collect all the pets to, find the game enjoyable, more power to them. I'm going to support them in all of their wacky endeavors. In certain games, I make it very clear this is a very dark game. There are heavy risks. You go into combat expecting to die. The more things you bring in with you, the more things you're going to potentially lose.
Wolfsblood says, Psh, yeet the cat into battle. Grenade rules the first round, Berserker Frenzy, and 1d6 rounds thereafter. 1d2 plus 1 slashing damage per round.
Yeah, but, I'm a big proponent of find your bliss, but I'm also in agreement. If your pet does anything more than just be a pet that runs away at the first sign of danger to stay alive and back after.
I just thought it was going to live in his dorm room, and, it would be a fun thing where they're like, nothing crazy's happened. Let's go spend time with Marzipan, and that's what I do. Like, and I didn't think he was going to bring it everywhere with him. He didn't tell me beforehand, and so I eventually just went, "Hey, just so you know."
Yeah, I just if that pet does anything more than just be a trophy,
If you want to,
on your shoulder and squawks occasionally or purrs. Like if it's starting to go get keys from the prison when you've been locked in, or anything else,
or if you're like trying to use it for ghost hunting.
Game.
It seems
so.
that
In Spirals, they have there's a mechanic where if you crit during a test, an elemental dog appears called a Gog, and it's basically, luckily, it's instructable. It just follows you around, but it's basically like a compass to the inspired, which are the gods of the world. And it can locate your god or your chosen god at any time from anywhere on the islands. So you get a pet with a crit roll. It's Spirals. It doesn't die, luckily.
That's good.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've had both sides of it where it's been a benefit, and then it's also been a road bump in the game before. I usually err on the side of, like, if you're going to be going after pets, just know that if you're not taking care of it, something's going to happen to it. The world's a dangerous place. If you leave it outside of, like, the dungeon, there's odds that something's going to come and eat it. Like, that's just the way it goes. So.
Would you ever do a 1d2 damage zombie cat grenade? Like
No.
what Wolf mentioned? No?
Absolutely not.
So no zombie cats from your pets? No? No.
Not unless you're playing, like, Call of Cthulhu Reanimator.
Okay.
Specifically that, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
all right. So Corin in our Discord, also known as Apache1222, in chat, would like to know, do you ever have your characters, either PCs or NPC, eat meals on a regular basis, such as breakfast or dinner at night?
Yeah. That's when some of the best inter-character role play occurs, is over dinner. They're either planning or breakfast. They're either planning their day or figuring out who's pissed at who for what, or any of the other stuff. I mean, I hand that to them on a silver platter so they can have that inter-character or inter-party conversation that may not necessarily involve somebody else. And that's like a good 5-10 minutes of awesome to just sit back and watch them do their magic.
Not only that, Reed, but I'm also going to jump in and say this is also a resource expenditure time. And if they're doing it 3 times a day, that's that much more gold and silver they're spending, and then they got to get their butts out on an adventure to do something.
Oh yeah, I'm big on resource sinks too. I mean that helps motivate those adventurers.
Yeah, exactly.
Outside of outright stealing from them, which they never appreciate, no matter how good it is for their adventuring commit.
It's still fun though.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I think it's a great time. I know that I have several players that take the chef feat because one of the most important things for their character is, what am I cooking for the party today?
Oh, yeah.
What is my character doing? I'm going out foraging. I'm going out. What local fauna can I collect to make a dish for everyone while we're traveling? Especially with like rangers. Rangers are able to forage for goods in 5e within their chosen terrain. Like, it gives them the opportunity to really lean into that aspect for role playing.
Oh yeah. The barbarian in Goblets and Gays is like the group chef, so it's always fun where I just get to go in the it's like, okay, you've all woken up from your long rest. Okay, Jubisa, like, what are you cooking for the group this morning? And just get that fun like little moment of the character, just person getting into character, being like, well, this, and then their whole big thing is like baking bread. And so there's always usually like some really great just descriptions of food, and it helps like get everybody in the mood. Also makes everyone hungry because after that we're always like, wow, it sounds really good. I wish I was eating something right now.
Yeah, it's just.
I was just about to ask if any of you guys started to describe meals and get hungry as you talk about what's.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a lovely.
Like, you always have a famous meal for like a tavern day. It was like a local speciality. We had like mushroom type soup in this like Ravenloft campaign.
It's another reason why I like to keep a copy of this right by my computer.
Nice.
I have a copy of the same one. It's tab.
Yeah, it's so great. It's like, so let's see, what would I like to order at the tavern tonight? What sounds good? Like, you use it like a menu.
If you're doing Call of Cthulhu, I recommend the Necronom
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is
absolutely worth it. Absolutely, totally worth it. And just the writing in here makes me laugh hysterically because they really hit every point in this.
There used to be a book called the Dragonlance book called Leaves from the Inn of the Last Home. I don't know if anyone remembers that, but they used to have recipes all in the back. It was wonderful, like the otics, like fried potatoes and all these things. It was really cool, that book. I think I will still have it at home, actually, on the cupboard somewhere.
I think that book, did that come out around the same time they had the trading card game that came out with 2E?
That's right, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, that was one of the few things I inherited right when I first started playing D&D.
Yeah, same. Yeah, but it's cool having like recipes within a supplement.
There was somebody that I used to play with once that used to like go all out, and like for every tavern they had a menu. And it was amazing, like just the thought that went into it, but it was also really great. Again, going back to both the resource expenditure, because if I want to buy a meal that costs an entire gold, like I'm going to need to make that up somehow, but also just for the RP nature of it, like, you know, just the opportunity of being like, oh, I want to go all out and, you know, I want to give my entire party this fantastic meal. And so I'm going to buy dinner for everybody in the party or something like that. And I love that kind of thing. Like, I just think it's so great, so clever.
Okay. We're going to have fried potatoes in duck fat with Gruyere cheese and duck fat gravy with duck confit. It should be delicious. It'll be served with a nice honey red wine and, of course, sweet rolls. Lots and lots of sweet rolls because they're magical. They're elven bread. They're delicious, and it costs a lot of money to make. So we're going to serve it to you for as much as we can possibly make you spend.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. It's also fun to have players like create things too. There was one of the earlier episodes in our second season. The group was staying at an inn, and they somehow got on the topic of potato chips, and therefore have created potato chips in my world.
Hey. Clever.
Yeah, they were like, people was like, I don't know what that is, and they were like, oh, this, and they've created potato chips in the world. They have potato-based shenanigans.
There you go.
So one of the things that we do is if somebody brings up something like from the real world in the campaign, everyone else is going to play stupid and ask what they're talking about. Like if somebody says coffee, they're going to be like, I don't. What is this? And it's like, well, you take this stuff and you make it and you boil it and you grind it and you do. Oh, you're talking about mastique and bean juice. That's so, you know. And then somebody will make something up for it, you know. And that's been hilarious.
I like that. You know? Yeah.
I like a warm hot morning potion.
Yeah. Somebody in chat just said, "Don't forget Star Castles, Reed."
Star Castles, yes, you Yes, Star Castles. Yeah.
I feel like there's a story there.
Yeah. I'll let since she wants to call me out for it, she can tell it in chat. She
All
can
right.
type it out every word. I'll let her do that.
There you
I know
go,
who that is.
Amber Anna.
Yeah.
There's your mission for tonight.
Yeah. There's all sorts of funny ones in there that we just, you don't want to go down to Star Castles at midnight, though. It's just
good to know. Yeah. A game I played in last year at one point, it just sort of became general knowledge that, like, for breakfast you could go downstairs and you could get like eggs and bacon and meat and that sort of thing. And then at the time we actually had a channel where our community could come in and like RP, text-based RP in the world. And somebody invented sprited mead. So it was mead with just a drop of Sprite blood in it, but it made it a lot harder for people to get drunk. And it was really funny watching people like RP the idea of like, I am so grossed out by this because there's blood in it now. Like, it just was really entertaining, the stuff that people would come up with. And that became part of the canon. Like, this meat is only available at this tavern, and anybody else is going to look at you funny if you ask for it. So, all right. So, Ray May have asked another question. She would like to know, have you ever had a PC or NPC with a catchphrase, entrance song, or watch this kind of behavior?
Yes. And going in the vein of things that get brought up in real life and stuff. So I have a character named Rin Drakewood who talks like this. And he does this all the time. And someone said, "What are you, English?" And I was like, "What's English? Never heard of it. I'm not English. I'm pretentious." And that's basically the catchphrase that has been going on. Is it's not English. It's pretentious. So, yeah. And that's basically, that's it. That's mine. That's all I got, guys.
Yeah. One of the players in Goblets and Gaze, Sparlock, who plays the Goblin Groon, Groon, the little firebug Goblin cleric. They have the sigil spell, which essentially like lets you like slap like a small little message or note on something. But their whole thing is they use the sigil spell to slap "Groon was here" on just random things. Every time we go into somewhere, they just go, "I want to slap the sigil on somewhere no one is going to see it." I think at one point they were in a witch's house, and they were just like, "I do it on the bottom of her teapot." She's not going to notice until like the next time she cleans it. And then I think one of the last times I remember is they were on a pirate ship for a little bit, traveling across the ocean, and they went down to like where the cargo and everything is held, and they moved some boxes aside and then just put it right on the side of the ship.
Nice.
Which is going to be fun because that was one of our first guest characters of the podcast. When the next time they meet that character, because the character will have found that this person put "Groon was here" on their ship.
Yeah, I've only had one that I've ever used like a catchphrase with, and they were from a port of a IM roleplay group transferred over into D&D, in which I played a barbarian named Callie Northwolf, and anytime she had to introduce herself, it was a long list of titles and accomplishments. "I am Callie Northwolf, leader of the free people in the north, slayer of the frostworm Hrothmere, wielder of the sun and sword blade." And every single time I did anything in that game, I would add another title or accomplishment. So by the end, you have like this 9-paragraph long intro, and people are like, "Come on, don't talk to Callie. Whatever you do, just
That's the best way to be left alone.
I was like, I had to explain the 8 charisma somehow.
I played a character that was a werewolf one time, and she didn't have a catchphrase, but she did have a song, and it was this song that I just stumbled on one day on YouTube, and it's called Earthshaker Drums by, oh my god, what is it called? audio something. I can't remember the name of the group now. But anyway, it was literally just like a 30-second super intense drum piece. And I always swore that at about 4 seconds in, you could actually hear her roaring. And there was one time I was playing that game and we were in a battle and I just listened to that on repeat for like a solid half an hour.
I dig it.
It was great.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I shared that with the group.
I play a character called Bomb on Scriv the Bard's channel. Heroes of Iastera. We do it every couple of weeks, and for some reason we got on the subject of food, and somehow it came across to Cinnabuns or Cinnabombs to link with the name. So every time Bomb the Druid casts a spell, he says Cinnabomb. But whenever he does anything, like, yeah. So quite funny.
One of the live stream games I play in, I think on our very first episode, like before we got started, we had a 5-minute conversation about pasta and just things like that. Like as everybody was like getting ready to go, but it was like during our like sort of just warm up. It was like being streamed. So 10 minutes into the episode, we were dubbed the Spaghetti Warriors. And so now our thing is going to every single inn and asking if they have spaghetti. And then rigging all the ferret races. We're supposed to be heroes.
Food does seem to come a lot into sessions, doesn't it? In some way or another.
Yeah.
Especially stream sessions. It always
It's
goes back
kind
to
of
food,
funny.
doesn't it?
Like when you go to someone's house, you gather in the kitchen more than you'll gather anywhere else, right?
Yeah.
Or at a dining table. Like gathering at a table and food just seems to be a natural thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's because when you sit down at a kitchen table, it's under the pretense the food will arrive if you sit there long enough.
Yeah.
You just keep giving eyes to the DM or the host, and you're like,
I keep hoping that as the DM, when I DM, that people will bring snacks, and it just doesn't happen enough. If you want to be a hobby hero, everyone, and take this advice: if you want to be a hobby hero, if your DM is putting up together a game, especially if that DM is also hosting you, bring food forever, bring snacks, and make the DM just focus on giving you a great game. And I promise you, your games will get better.
Sadly, I'm stuck with mostly
Feed the DM.
Mostly online games. So they ever since the Panorama.
DoorDash on pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pro tip.
If
any of my players are watching, then if they get me pizza, I will give them 20s.
You give me pizza, everyone gets inspiration.
What I'm saying is I can be bought.
Yeah, so every time someone tries to buy me, I tell them it's 10,000 in gold pieces, in actual gold coins, a chocolate cheesecake, and a fifth of rum. I've never gotten a fifth of rum yet.
Chocolate cheesecake.
No one even makes that. No one will make it for me. The 10,000 gold, like, I'd be excited if I saw that, but I want to see a chocolate cheesecake and a fifth of rum. And if I see those two, I know the 10,000 gold is coming.
There you go.
You're saying that's all it takes?
10,000 gold in real gold? Oh,
That's it?
That's it.
All right.
You can bribe me for that
We'll get this
in
taken
your
care of.
Dungeons and Dragons game. Yeah.
Just you wait. We'll get this taken care of. No time.
Oh, okay. All right. She's gonna go.
All right,
rob
Jack, get on it.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that's funny. I had another character. I know our chat, people who are here every week have heard me tell this story before, but I did have a character that I played one time off stream who was a dragon rider, and every time she would get on her dragon, it would just coincidentally happen that the music from the Neverending Story would come out of nowhere, and she'd get on the dragon and go, yeah, and off she'd go. So yeah, that was a thing that happened a lot. It never got old.
Ever. Not at all.
No, not at all.
Ray Mayhem is a hobby hero. Ray Mayhem Amazons people snacks for their online game. That's right. If you're in an online place, you can still be a hobby hero
It's true.
and send your DM snacks.
I've sent
Okay.
snacks to other players in our stream game. I've sent Amanda a giant thing of cheese balls for her birthday, and she definitely was like snacking on them on stream one day.
I've bought like dice and things like that for people,
Yeah.
or people bought me dice, but I'm like, I gotta start doing snacks.
You know, one of your sponsors actually does a blondie cookie called Bribe the DM
Yes.
Blondie.
Yep.
Is that? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
we go ahead.
I actually ate those live on stream as a review. I said, I'm not a order inspiration for this, but they're really good. You know,
Yeah, so for those of you who aren't familiar, we partner with Critical Hit Cookies, and they have a blondie called the Bribe the DM. They have like she changes up some of her selection every month, but oh man, her stuff is so good. And yeah, so it's shared EXP 10 will get you 10% off your order. Just FYI.
I have a question for you all if we don't have any.
Go for it.
no, go for it.
All right. Player death for a means of motivating a story. Something you would do or not. And what would be the scenarios in which you would use it to motivate a party?
Did you say player death?
Yeah, like player character death.
Oh, I was about to say.
I mean, give or take depending on the table. I mean, I'm not going to do
You'll
this.
roll better. I will start stabbing.
Because
Yeah.
let me tell you, Mama's got a stash of fava beans and Chianti downstairs. So if you want to go down that road.
I don't know. Player death to motivate people. I was like, I'm like, I'll kill an NPC to just on any day. Like that. That I've also found is a really great motivator for players, especially if they're attached to an NPC. Threaten that NPC's life, and you'll watch the hoops they jump through to save that NPC. But yeah, player death is just like to motivate players. Player death, like I always keep it on the table. Is a thing that can happen through rolls and things like that. But I will never incredibly go out of my way to kill a player. I will never usually unless it's like an incredibly intelligent monster or XYZ or it has specific abilities. If a monster downs a player, and it's not specifically like undead and it wants to eat the player or something like that. If it's just like a bear, it's gonna down a player and then move on to the next one. It's not going to sit there and be like, I'm going to use my other two actions to bite and claw at the person who's now unconscious. It's gonna think the thing is not going anywhere, so it's gonna move on.
That's fair.
I've had a few player deaths just through rolls and things like that, and it's always just it is always interesting because then it is a way to motivate a player in a, does this person want to continue playing this character? Because if not, I have an idea how to bring him back, but it's going to be a slight, detour, and it'll be interesting, and who knows what'll come of it, but
Player death for me is a little more serious. I always have the threat of player death on the table, and it wouldn't, and I don't do it as it's not a punishment. It should never be a punishment. If it is, you're playing in a toxic game.
Oh yeah.
But it's a thing that can happen because heroes are going into, that's the reason they're heroes. They're putting themselves into extremely dangerous situations. There's only so much I can do if they keep screwing up past a certain point, But also, even then, you can use player death or character death. Let's change the wording.
Yeah, character death.
Character death.
Player death.
Yeah, please do, because I'm getting excited over here.
Yeah. You can use PC death to create all sorts of moral quandaries if you think about it ahead of time. For example, as a matter of fact, she's in chat right now. Amber Anna's character, Turja Nighthawk, they were fighting a bunch of hobgoblins, but they had previously come across an imp earlier. And they had, had this encounter and they basically tossed it off, and then two episodes later, sessions later, she gets basically put down. Boom, death save time. And she passes 2 death saves, she fails a death save, and then a voice comes in.
Hello, my name's Kakadak the Imp. I can make sure you don't die, but there's a prize.
And at that point, she said no. Then she failed another death save. So now she's 2-2, and whatever it is. And so the imp comes back.
Last chance. If you fail, you die. But I can make sure you come back, and you could save your friends. They're dying out there right now.
Because they're also in the fight of their life, too. And another one of them went down. And so she
Made a deal with the devil.
at that point, you now have, in addition to the current story that they're in, she's now having to deal with this plot, this infernal contract that she's made. So that's one thing you can do. When you guys were mentioning like some side quests and stuff like that, I think that once death occurs, they either need to love that, the rest of the party needs to love that character so much they want to bring them back, unless that person doesn't want to play that character anymore, or there needs to be a moral quandary that gets placed upon them that makes it no matter what, just getting popped up every time you go down should have some consequences. Otherwise, you wind up getting a situation where you have players that are just like, all right, well, we're just going to revivify real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, oh no.
He went straight out.
Oh no.
That was genius. That was genius timing.
Oh gosh.
Oh my gosh, what just happened?
You popped too hard.
Clear, boom, so essentially once that happens, the players start becoming what's the word I'm looking for? Flippant about their death.
Yeah.
And that's also a problem.
Yeah, so less motivational and more sort of empowering the narrative.
Keeping everything grounded, really.
Yeah.
Like, this is a world, death is on the table. In Goblets and Gaze, we haven't really had a time where death has really come into play yet, but it's almost, the people have gone down, especially there was a really big fight near the end of our first season where all of these zombies were invading a town, and that was 2.5 hours of combat, and near the end, like, everyone was running out of spells, and the barbarian and the monk both went down, and it was like there's a chance that they might die, and that was even just not necessarily death, but even going down, especially in the middle of a big fight, is a really big motivator.
Yeah.
I would definitely say as a DM, I never use character death as like a primary motivator. It's sort of just like an underlying thing. I don't go out of my way to kill players or their characters, I should say. But it's an ever-present threat because I play 2nd edition, not 5th. So it's a little bit more dangerous. So it's, it's just a thing that you accept when you get in here. When you hit 0, you're done for. So like you have to be aware of it and ready for that as well. So
it is a thing that will happen.
And it's hilarious when it happens.
It really is.
I didn't know the tacos were explosive.
Hey, it's Taco. It's Taco Tuesday.
It's 60% food.
It's Taco Tuesday.
No, I do think it does have its uses. I will disagree to a degree in that player death. Well, I would never force it on a player that didn't say, I'm not happy with the character I'm playing.
Yeah.
I want out. Or if
That's
the dice
really the
fall
only
where they
time I
do.
could ever see it as like a thing that you would go out of your way to try and do. I've had a few players in not any games that are streamed or anything. I've had home games where a player comes to me and is like, hey, this character just doesn't work the way I thought it was going to. I had that happen in a game where I built this fortune-telling con woman. But the build was wrong and the class was wrong, and it's just like, I wasn't, like, there was no way, like, even with, like, good rolls, I was going to be able to do the things that, like, my character's supposed to do, like, cold read people and, like, be really good at deception and insight, and it's just, like, it wasn't working, so eventually I went into the DM, I just went, like, we could rebuild her or something, or I can play this other character, it's just also not working. It's just not working.
Yeah, and I think
so a few sessions later, she killed my character.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah, but I mean, it does give you the ability to, especially if you have a team of players that all trust each other, and you have that rapport to trust the DM. That some of my players are like, to quote them, "Hurt me, daddy."
Yep.
Is their go-to, and they're like, "We're fine with you doing whatever you want because we know that you have a reason to do it." And I always touch base with them, and I would never, write a character off the board, but you always give that route of, hey, this person wants to play coming to terms with their faith. Death in a dungeon, that's definitely a way to come face to face with your god, or to grow enlightened from your return, or to, you're losing faith, your god shows an interest for once. I also think that I like to supply my players with make it or break it moments, which are big narrative moments in which I give them the option, not even depending on a roll. I say, you can do this heroic action, whether it's buying their allies time to escape, or, I want to hold the Lich's phylactery and jump through the portal. In which I say, you can do this, but there is no return. There's no dice on the table. You have the ability to turn away, or you have the ability to be a hero.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I've done that. Yeah. I agree with that statement. Yeah.
So this all sort of ties in with what we were just talking about, but Jim the Dim asked the question, particularly for GMs, DMs, have you ever, this part was italicized, accidentally killed a PC or NPC?
It's never an accident when it happens. If it happens, it happens.
Yes. But I'll caveat that with it's kind of like being a wizard. It happens exactly when I decide it happens. So, but I have done it. There are more. If you're fast on your feet, you can easily figure out ways out of it, or to bring them back up. There's always a story option that can bring a PC back. But the one thing I will say, because we're bringing up PC death a lot, is if PC death is like constant every combat encounter, that will get old very quickly. If you have people going down every single combat encounter, well then, how the heck did these kids grow up in the first place, right? So it's one of those things where there's going to be moments where they basically need to show just how badass they really are, and they're going to knock down those ruffians that are picking on the barmaid or the bartender, depending on what your campaign's doing. But there also needs to be times when it's deadly. So it's kind of like pacing, I guess you could say. You gotta, but you also need to give those cues too of what they're up against. But even so, yeah, I've accidentally killed PCs when I had something go a little too strong. And
last year I ran Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus. And it's like one of the times where they go down into like one of the first major cult dungeons. They're like level 2 or 3, I don't remember. They're super low level, but you come across an enemy that is like, it goes up against level 2 enemies. It has Fireball as a spell. And I was like, oh yeah, this thing happens. They cast Fireball. I was totally in it in the moment, and I just went. And then as soon as it said they cast Fireball, and I just went. Suddenly I go, oh no! I remember how much damage that is. And like literally, yeah, they're a decent party, but nobody has over like 12 or 13 or like no one has over 20 health. And I roll, and everybody goes down. I was essentially like. Furiously, like, how do I fix this? How do I not have a TPK an hour into our game tonight? And eventually I was like, okay, you all wake up like several hours later in a prison cell. And then it turned into, how are we going to get ourselves out of this thing? Because we have none of our gear. We don't have our gear. And we're all pretty wounded. But how are we going to get out of this thing? So you can turn it around and really create good stories with it. You just gotta be careful and be really good at acting on your feet.
And don't stick with the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That says things.
I later was like, Why does this NPC?
Why is that fireball, yeah?
Level 2 or 3 players. Why
Yeah.
are you giving them fireball? Yeah, I know it's one of them, and that they have to be kind of tanky and like able to take some hits. but-
Fireball in a confined space is a weapon of mass
yeah.
destruction.
Yeah, it's
really
in
is.
a tiny,
Beautiful thing.
it's a tiny room, and then it's like a tiny little staircase, so it's gonna hit all the players unless they're all spread out on the staircase.
Yeah, I think there was a study done. If you did all the cubic square footage of Fireball in like the basement dungeon in Death House, it basically wipes out almost everything in the basement dungeon of White. It basically
Okay,
destroys
yeah.
most of that floor, and you're just like, oh, that was a bad idea.
Yeah, I think I've only ever had one oops moment where I accidentally killed a player. They had a flying broom, which is one of my favorite magical items of all times. However, a lot of people don't account for what happens if I get knocked off the broom. And when you're 60 feet above the battlefield or 80 feet above the battlefield and you get knocked off with no source of flying, mathematically, most of the time you're not going to walk away from that. It's going to be just straight death. Not even
Yeah.
death saving throws. And
El Splato.
yeah.
But you're going to scream the whole way down, and that's
yeah.
entertaining.
Yeah.
Ah! Ah! You know, because you'll think there's time for a breath in there.
Yeah. But that's the only time they went kersplat.
Yeah. Never happened to me. No. Never happened to me. Someone in the starter set, D&D starter set, decided to steal the young dragons, the green dragons horde about 3 times, even though they were a new player. But there was 2 warnings, and I thought, if I have to warn them one more time, I'm gonna have them bit in half, and that's what happened. It was just their legs and their feet left in the shoes.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Sometimes there are consequences to inaction.
3 times. It was like 3 strikes. It's like, I warned you twice. Very narratively warned you twice. This dragon is going to notice you. He's not going to believe your lies.
Yeah, I played it just like on player consequences and things like that. Like I played a game years ago where I ran, and the lawful good paladin, their job was to go into this mine that had been overtaken by goblins and just wipe them out. It's a simple start to like a campaign. So it was just like this, and then the lawful good paladin goes, "I destroy the mining equipment." I was just like, "Oh, okay." You sure you're destroying a town's livelihood? He's like, "Well, they could use it against us," and I'm like, "They have short swords and short bows. They don't need a pick." But they did, and they lost their connection to their lawful good deity because,
Sabotaging.
it's just like it was like they had to go out of their way also to find this mining equipment. It wasn't even like on the standard way, and it was just like it was like a 30-minute conversation where I go, okay, so I'm exactly sure this is exactly what you want to do. I just made them dig their hole deeper.
Literally.
It's just like session 1, you've become an oath-broken paladin. Good job.
That's actually, a good start.
I mean, there are worse things that could happen.
You mean people play paladin and aren't oathsworn from the beginning? Or like oathbreakers?
I don't know, but then it was just like, then later they were like, well, I didn't want to do that. I'm like, I gave you 3 chances to back out.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That's brutal.
Yeah.
I had an instance one time where I have only DM'd on 1, maybe 2 if you count that like a one-on-one session that lasted, like an hour. And so this was a game that I was not DMing, but I was a really new player, like didn't really know things about how the game worked or anything like that. Like it was one of my first games. Ran into a room, opened a sarcophagus, out popped a vampire who cast Slay Living, and I was dead, and I was not happy. We're talking like, table flip, rage quit kind of thing. And yeah, it was bad. Like looking back on it now, I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely would not do that now. But at the time, I didn't know any better.
Yeah. Also, this person was somebody a friend for a really long time, and like they'd been playing TTRPGs for years. And I was like, you really should know by this point, but you know.
Yeah.
It was not. I would not have gone that hard on somebody who this was their first game.
I should mention that the DM was my now ex-husband.
That's what did it. That's what
I jokingly say that was part of the grounds for the divorce. No, I'm kidding.
Who got the D20? Who got the D20 in the end? Yeah.
I think all the dice moved in with me. Or a very.
Are you guys all dice goblins?
Oh, totally.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. I have an entire mason jar just full of dice.
Average.
I'm on like bag number 4.
Yeah, and I've got more around, but like the mason jar on my desk is like my main dice for like I have like a couple other like bags full of dice and.
Yeah, I think I counted recently, and sitting at my desk, I've got like 9 or 10 sets right within arm's reach of sitting where I am right now.
Yeah, do you all color code and pick dice when you make a new character for a new streamed game or new game?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm not the only one, thank goodness.
Yeah, no, I do, and so do all of my players.
Yeah.
I have
They're like,
this dice. I don't have to do that. I don't consider my dice color when I'm picking my dice actually at all. I just want dice that work.
I just got 2 sets. That's it.
Yeah.
I tend to pick. I lucked out last year, but I more than made up for it over the course of the pandemic. I tend to buy a new set of dice every year I go to PAX East, and so I was able to get a new set last year. There is no PAX East this year, which is devastating to me, but we won't talk about that. But I've backed probably like 3 Kickstarters that came with dice. I bought the Jasper's Game Day set from Die Hard Dice. I just got an email the other day like, oh, your dice have shipped. And I'm like, what the heck? Where did I order dice from? So
late night dice shopping.
I don't even remember ordering them. They should be here on Wednesday though, so I'll be curious to find out what they are. I just backed the Perihedral set from Greenleaf Geek on Kickstarter. Like, I have a dice problem, so.
I want to get in there and get a nice set of gemstone dice.
Yeah, I would like to do that someday.
The price is always the thing that stops me from doing it. I did for Christmas get like a nice metal dice set, but like I don't use them so much because they're heavy and they will mess up my dice tray if I use them too much. I will be like, oh, it's a special occasion, so I'm gonna break out the metal dice. But you know, because like I already
get your table.
Yeah, I
My
have dents in my dice tray from using it.
We use a virtual tabletop. We use Fantasy Grounds here on this channel for one of our streams, the one that I play in. So I don't need physical dice, which is even worse that I have acquired so many over the last year and a half. So we don't use physical dice when we play, but when I do, and I have to roll them for something that's being recorded or whatever, I roll them on my mouse pad, which just so happens to look like that. So, but I definitely use that whenever I have my metal dice out because those suckers are loud and heavy and they will do damage.
Yeah, I've had to tell people to stop using them on my tables. Mostly because I built my tables. And I'm not rebuilding them for
fair.
them. Yeah.
I like them. They're pretty, and you know, I'll break them out on special occasions. And I'll be very gentle when I toss them into my dice tray. But yeah, I like the metal dice are nice, but like a nice set of gemstone dice that aren't like too heavy, and have a good roll to them. That would be nice.
I strictly use my metal dice like all the time. My skull splitters are my babies.
Those are nice ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love them. They do me really well as a GM.
I have a set of color changing ones that they're like mood dice, but if they're cold, they're blue, and if they get warm, they turn purple. So those are fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a set of dice that is very special. This one you can't really see it, but it's like it's got like it's black and it's got like purple stripes, sort of, and the purple is like completely clear and the black is opaque. They're a very special set of dice because when I moved in with my boyfriend, my players bought them for me because I thought I had lost my normal set of dice, my main like GM set of dice during the move. And so they didn't tell me. They planned this all in secret. And then they ordered it for me, and they got here, and it was a very sweet moment.
Aw.
So they're now my main player killing dice.
There you go.
They really like player blood.
Somebody in chat, Orc from Mork, just mentioned that he backed the pixel dice. Have you guys seen those?
Oh
yeah.
yeah,
we
so
did
nice.
we did part of our news on that whole series, and that they're not cheap, but boy, can they do a lot.
Yeah. They're really
yeah.
cool looking. If I used Roll20, I probably would have seriously considered it.
If I was really needing to pay $200 for dice that can count themselves for me,
Yeah.
I would buy those dice. Me personally, I spent $15 and I've got a hell of a set of dice. I can add the numbers on my own.
But these ones light up.
They not only light up, they know what side they're on, and they will add everything for you and tell you what you got based on your roll.
Yeah.
It's freaky wild, and it's connected to your computer too if you want it to be, or your iPad, and all sorts of stuff.
Oh, that's cool. The Orc just said in chat, I got them for my blind father-in-law so he can have the tactile feel of rolling and hear the result.
Yeah,
that is the one cool thing about them that we're finding to be cool. Then there's the Dots project for dice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which does braille dice, basically. And those are pretty cool. If you haven't checked that out, Orc from Orc, the Dots project is amazing.
Very cool. All right. Well, I think we're going to stop here and take a quick break, and we will allow our guests to stretch their legs and refill drinks and all of that good stuff. And we will be back in just a couple minutes. See you soon. I know. And we're back. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks so much for hanging out during the break. Hope you all had a good few minutes to get up and stretch and all that stuff. There was a poll posted. If you missed it, the question was the classic one that we ask here: do your dice have to match? 4 people said yes, 3 people said no, and 1 person said sometimes. So there you have it. I am definitely of the my dice have to match camp. So I don't know about you guys, but
Yep, same.
Yeah.
Yep.
all right then. Glad we had that talk.
Great talk.
Great talk. Good job, guys. So we're gonna launch back in. We just got a question from Zeal Zaddy, who said, "Have you run a game where you could tell the players, not the characters, felt actual fear, like from watching a really scary movie?"
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Let me jump into this really quickly
Go
here.
for it.
I was running a new group through Fandelver. It was probably like one of the last times I really dove into 5th edition. There's one point where you go into the basement and there's a Nothic in there. And at that point, I'm role-playing this Nothic, talking to the players, and I crawl over on top of the table and like crack my spine all the way up to my neck and crack my neck sideways as I'm like talking to them, looking in their eyes, and like this absolute horror in the room. It was just beautiful. And that was like my proudest moment, because that's the magic you really don't get to capture when you're playing online. So
Yeah.
in that moment at that table, I projected fear just by getting a little too into the role, and it was chef's kiss. It was wonderful.
Go ahead.
I was saying with I'm running a game that is specifically all based around horror and going in knowing that you're going to be put into horrific situations. And first episode of AnimamAgere, and I definitely I started things off strong with, so everything starts with it's like freshman orientation, and the group is, getting to know each other. They've all been sort of thrown together. Some of them tenuously know each other through past connections and things like that, because they all are like from the same area, and so they're sent off on like a scavenger hunt, and it starts off pretty normal. Until they have to go into this old arts building, like after hours, and the arts building is this old converted church that has been turned into like an arts building, which I actually stole from the college I went to. They had an old converted church turned into an arts building, and they have to go down to the basement where all the art labs are, and sort of all the lights are off, and at the end of the hall there's a door open, and then there's a solitary candle just sitting in the middle of the table. And just the player's fear of, we have to go in there, but we don't want to, but we have to because we have to finish the scavenger hunt. And just getting them in there, and then eventually them being like, okay, what do we do? And eventually they blow out the candle. And so at that point, like, the door slams shut behind them, and they start seeing these like eye shapes drawn all over the walls in this sort of frantic, like almost looks to be carved, and it's just you can feel the tension even in a Discord call. You can just feel it. Everybody is on edge, and it is a wonderful feeling. And the door won't open. Everyone's trying to figure out how to get out, and then someone discovers the hidden door that leads them further in, and they open it and they go in, and just in there it leads them to another room. And this one's cobwebs, dust everywhere, and a solitary steamer trunk in the middle of the room. And then just the tension and just them just being like, what do we do? We're just teenagers. It was a lovely, lovely moment.
I'm a big fan of symbolism and foreshadowing. I borrow heavily from like the original Alien and the original Jaws.
Mm-hmm.
The monster is far more, scary when you don't know what it looks like or what you're up against. And so, you may have the foreshadowing of a dwarf ranger who's your guide comes across another dwarf ranger who's injured and terrified, and he's telling you, and they're exchanging information, and your party's overhearing it. It's like, yeah, I went in with, and he explains the party, and the party sounds about on par with the characters or more powerful. I fell down the cliff, and I got out, and he's explaining everything, and basically he relays a story of how he's the only survivor. And the only reason he survived is he was lucky. He got blown off of the cliff face and fell down in such a way that he was able to make an escape while he saw and heard everyone else get torn apart by these howling otherworldly creatures. And then that's it. That's what they get that session. The next session, they start to hear howls echoing through the Underdark, getting closer. And then they do something else, and then at another point they come out of whatever they were actually there for, and then they're making their way home, and then there's more howls, and then by the time those creatures get there, they've already run from them for quite a while. Now they have no choice but to fight, and they're terrified already. Pretty good startup, and it builds slowly. You can't just, well, you can. After all, you guys have done it, right? You can just do it in one episode, but I find you get a lot more out of from just a single session than you do when you get a whole ramp up of foreshadowing and symbolism long before they get to the actual fight.
I'm looking forward for Animam especially because we've only recorded the first few episodes. We're releasing them every other week, and I'm definitely building up something through our first season, and I'm starting to tease it. They've learned that it's essentially a giant, it's like a werewolf that is their big antagonist of the season 1. And, they haven't actually seen it yet. They've just seen the chaos and destruction. Because they all passed out and were possessed by their mythos before they could get a look at it when they opened the trunk. And then one of them was recording it, but his phone went on the fritz and was destroyed before they could actually, take a look at the recording.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of utilizing audio, especially audio. One of my favorites is there's a YouTube series that they take the sound of the different planets in the solar system, and it is this very unsettling background noise that I like to queue up for some of my players. I remember I ran a one-shot for some of them where they were basically going to investigate a dwarven mining outpost that had gone dark. And they encountered none of the dwarves, but had writings. And of course, they're, they went deeper into the mine. Let's go get them. And as they keep going down and down, they see, empty sleeping bags with smatterings of blood, a stained knife, a few journals that are written by different people at different times that are I hear the stones calling me, or the noise won't stop. My vision is fritzing, and as they continue going deeper and deeper and deeper, I end up bringing in a lot of. I like to play with their minds a little bit. You come to a fork in a path, left and right. Party splits up. One half goes left, half goes right. Have the party that goes right be staring at the party that goes left as they get to the end of this hallway, back where they were. Have them have this kind of mental game of, have we already started losing it? Are we already in too far?
Yeah. Call of Cthulhu, definitely. I've played some of those games, and as long as the storyteller is on point, it's such a wonderful experience. We have one that we did for our Halloween special for Goblets and Gays, where one of our players took over, and it was just the two of us, because we had a couple people that were busy, so we're like, screw it, we're going to do a Call of Cthulhu game. And it was just two of us that she ran through this thing she called the Murder House, and it was all based on nightmares that she had had.
Oh wow!
Apparently, one of her favorite ones that we didn't get to was there was a giraffe head that was in because we were set in the 1920s or something. It was a giraffe head that was in this lounge, and if we went up to it, it was going to try and kill us. Because apparently that was exactly the thing from her nightmare. But you build an atmosphere, you keep it going, because there were many times in that episode, one specifically where we were in a library and there's all these like eyes on a book and they were looking in different directions. And I eventually went, well, what if we arrange all the books in the correct order? And then I'd already like lost a lot of sanity by this point. I was not doing well. My character was not doing well. And the keeper was just like, do you do that? And I just go, no. I'm gonna leave now. I figured out what the puzzle is. I don't want to solve it because every time I've solved puzzles, worse things have happened. And then there was one time, because we were going into this house to find these missing children, and so we got into this room. We opened this door. We broke open this door to this room, and these birds and animals are all like going just crazy in there, like yelling and being loud and animal-like. And we had already seen a lot of crazy things. We didn't even want to go in the room, so we shut the door behind us and locked it. And then apparently we learned later that was the room that the kids were in.
Oh no!
Wow.
They had been turned into birds by the lady of the house.
Go ahead.
It was just like and then we just walked into the basement and got eaten by a creature. That's how it ended.
I would love to hear from the chat the things that terrify them and possibly glean some new ideas to terrify the players.
All right, chat. There's the challenge. Go ahead and drop it in there. So give us your best ideas. Yeah. Go ahead and put those in while we continue to chat about various things. Rich, I know that Inspiriles is not much on the horror front. So what are some things that, like, just because your system is so different than anything that most of us have played, what are some things in your system that might be scary or, along those lines for some of your players of that?
Well, there's definitely scary things in it. Some of the creatures are pretty scary. Some of them are based on like the Slough, which are like a Nordic or like Celtic kind of creature, essentially the undead. But the main thing we've got is if you collect disbelief, which is the opposite energy to like belief, which is like the XP of the game. You go onto this like scale thing where it unlocks these calamities, and one of them is called the Questing Beast, which is like an Arthurian kind of creature. Which is part like leopard, part snake. It's like a chimeric creature. And basically in the game that stalks the players across the whole islands. It goes everywhere they go, all the communities they visit. And when they enter a test and they're trying to pass a test, it kind of bays in the air and you can hear its voice and it puts them off. So any 6s they roll become a 1.
Oh, interesting.
So that can be a lot of tension there.
Yeah.
Definitely the calamities create a lot of tension within the game. Yeah. And the players have to solve those calamities immediately. They can't leave them. So they have to. And there's also another calamity where it's something called a well-being that comes from a different plane of existence. And they have to tackle that as well. So there's definitely really strong tension in the game. Not necessarily horrific, though.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I've designed a game made for teenagers and it's quite wholesome in a way. But like my personal games are all Ravenloft and all horror, horror based. You'll probably find that's quite a common thing that people design the opposite of what they play, or they've got different like polar sort of interests, really.
Yeah, I don't do a lot of like horror games, mostly just because the opportunity hasn't presented itself. I did do a playthrough of the Death House in Curse of Strahd back around Halloween. It wasn't streamed. It was just a one-shot turned 3 or 4 shot that we had some fun with off stream. But I'd like to get into some of that. Like, I did a Savage Worlds World of Darkness crossover at one point, and that, again, like, we didn't really get into like the horror piece of any of that. It wasn't so much scary, but yeah, I'd like to go down that route sometime just to give it a try.
Yeah, Vampire the Masquerade can get real dark real quickly.
Yeah.
In World of Darkness, and I have the book, and we were working on some stuff for that, and we still are. But I can tell you that there are moments when I'm reading through that going, I don't know, man. Am I cut out for this game? Or am I just not dark
Yeah,
enough? You know?
it can be. You're
Oh,
up and playing.
we should definitely get together, Rich, because I think, ooh, that game just makes me so.
I've
So
always
happy.
like wanted to play Vampire. I haven't played in like I played some in high school, but like I haven't played really since then. And especially like I really want to dig into like 5e. I ran it for my players as like a Christmas thing, and it is my players. They're all, I love them, and they're all chaos. And it was a Christmas special, so I was like, we're gonna get weird. I had them killing like a vampire Santa Claus. It was like causing trouble. But yeah, it was definitely, it was like there was not a lot of horror. I mean, the horror of being vampires and things like that, but it wasn't like scary or anything. And I love digging into scary things. I'm playing in a World of Darkness game currently where we're all normal people, but like weird things are happening, and you know, it's a lot of fun. And then Savage Worlds especially has the East Texas University setting.
Yep.
Which is I absolutely love. Like Wild Cards, they did like a full 4 seasons of it, and it's so good. And that was the initial system I thought about when I started working on Animam, but then it just became a little bit too complicated to work with, like a Persona like game where you also have these supernatural creatures who are lending you power.
Mm.
So that's why I ended up going with City of Mist.
Okay.
But there are some out there that are really good with horror, like Trophy Dark.
Have you played 10 Candles?
I want to, but like it's so hard to play online. Same things. Dread is one of my absolute favorite horror games, but you cannot play it online because you have to use a Jenga tower.
Yeah, it doesn't really work.
Yeah.
I wish somebody would come up with a good digital Jenga tower.
A digital, yeah, virtual one, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, you probably could.
Or with your VR headset. So.
Yeah, everyone has to be on VR.
Yeah, I'm trying to picture like how that would work. I'm like, well, maybe you could use what the heck is it called? I keep wanting to say like Tabletop Tavern. That's not it.
Simulator?
Yes, Tabletop Simulator. Thank you. Like maybe
might
that would be the
possible,
option,
but then again, there's a buy-in with everybody having to have Tabletop
yeah,
Simulator.
exactly. Yeah.
10 Candles can be hard virtually, but it can be done.
It
But
can
it is
be. I've seen people do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
The,
Sunken.
But 10 Candles in person, absolutely.
Oh, so good.
Absolutely.
I've run it a few times, and everybody is in the room. It's dark, and it's just those candles. It is just a fun time for me, especially because I'm running it. But it's just like it's a good moment, and especially the group is really good friends, like, and it is all buying into this, and all of that. It's oof.
Yeah. Well, I get you. I get what you're throwing
Yeah.
down.
It's just I want I occasionally help out with I live in an area that has like when Halloween comes around there's like 7 like haunted houses that are like in my, and I do makeup for them. I did, before Panorama. They didn't really do much last year, and I was a little bit too busy last year to help them. But yeah, before that I would do special effects makeup and just make monsters for them, and that was one of my favorite things in the world.
That's
Yeah.
wicked.
I always loved all that. I mean, like, but that actually, brings a good question though. Like, so I love playing around a table with people I can actually see, and obviously, that was the before times. Now, I mean, hopefully good things are on the horizon. It's looking so, but even so, we've spent over a year now playing virtually with most of our friends, and in most cases, most of our streams. What's changed for you guys that I mean, like, I know it's changed for me, but I'd like to hear from you guys what changed, like, because I'm big on props, music, all sorts of other stuff, but how did you guys, still maintain what you would call your best game in a virtual environment?
It's funny you should ask that because I was actually thinking about that during the break.
Yeah, I've been balancing like actual in-person games and like all virtual stuff for like even years before all of this happened. Like the group that has become Goblets and Gays. We started off as just it started off because I had surgery and I was out of work for a month, and I was so bored just laying around, and I just went, I want to run D&D. So I just put out a thing, and then everyone there, like, we all live in so many different parts of the country. Two of my players are in Canada, but we created this group that we've played together for 2 years. We know each other, we know everybody else, and we just have a lot of fun. And yeah, no, it's great. But yeah, before everything happened, I was starting up a 5e home game. I was just going to run Curse of Strahd because I got the book. And I was like, sure, I've always wanted to run this one. Sure, I'm going to run it for my friends. We got 4 or 5 sessions in before everything shut down. We decided just to sort of put it on hold, and now, like, most of us are almost vaccinated. We've been talking about picking it up again. And it's like, it'll be interesting, but it's like, I'll just suddenly just miss all of the ways that VTTs have made my life easier. I don't have to worry too much about people being like, I don't like filling out character sheets incorrectly and then being like, what is this? Why doesn't this make sense? Just being like, it's all there. It does it all for you. Oh no, we lost him again.
Oh no!
Oh no!
And he's back.
Sorry about that, guys.
Yeah. And it's just like, I enjoy the ease that VTTs have offered, especially with keeping track of notes and character sheets especially. I'm like, I don't ever want to have to go back to physical character sheets because they are the bane of my existence. Like, they're nice in a nostalgic way, but then it's just like, you level up and then you have to change everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm going to piggyback off of your question, Reed, because there was a question that came in from chat, and it was a half-joking question. I know this because this was a conversation I had with them separately. But can you fit a character backstory in the space given by the official character sheet? My answer is absolutely not.
With bullet points, anything's possible.
Yeah.
My character backstories are like 4 pages minimum.
So it depends is the question.
Yes.
Is the answer really. It depends. So, you can do a 4-page backstory. You can also do a 1-paragraph backstory and just call it good. I was raised in a great home. I had great parents, and I decided I want to do something different.
Yeah.
Dad's not happy. Let's go.
Let's go.
And that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the backstory comes as it needs to be.
Right. My two actually tie together. So in my home games before times, we were not big on backstories. We didn't tend to write very in-depth backstories really at all. And so, yes, I absolutely could fit my backstory in one of them because it was usually like, decided to become an adventurer on their 16th birthday. Okay, that's good.
AKA, I ran away from home.
Right. But when COVID shut everything down, I was also in that like mix of playing an in-person game and streaming stuff online. One of the things that I will say about the fact that we stream online weekly now is I very rarely have to worry about a game cancellation at the last minute.
Oh yeah.
Like that almost never happens anymore because it's not just the group that's affected anymore. It's like, oh, now we got to let the community know that there's not going to be a stream or, something like that. So people tend to be much more invested in that sort of thing. It's not just oh man, I set aside my Friday night to play D&D and now we're not playing. And so I guess I'll, watch Star Wars for the 800th time and that sort of thing. But I will say that the thing that's been nice about playing online is I was always really into TTRPGs and the TTRPG community, but like getting involved in it online, like really kind of opened my eyes to how many more systems are out there and all the Kickstarter systems that are out there and, the great indie games that are out there that I never would have ever dabbled in before, not out of disinterest, but just not having people to try it out with.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say that if it wasn't for shifting over to online playing in around 2018, I don't think I would be the player or DM that I am today. I have been playing D&D for 22 years, and the first game I ever played, I was a player. The second time I was ever a player was in 2018. Was when I got cast onto a small online streamed game put on by Gratuitous RP called Half Rate Heroes. And ever since then, almost all of my games have solely been online. Because, if you play with your friends, they've all started, moving out of state, getting jobs, starting careers, starting families. It's much more convenient, firstly, to, arrange a time and for them to be able to get up and walk from the keyboard, take care of the kids, or, make dinner, come back. But also that I think that it adds a layer of buy-in that you don't find when you're in person. People looking at their phones, people getting distracted with chatter. I find that happens significantly less in online games.
Oh, definitely.
It's everyone knows why we're there. We've taken time out to do this. We have our character sheet. We have the chat. And that's pretty much how it goes.
I guess I'm always weird. Like, I've always had characters with really in-depth backstories. My dad is actually only just recently got published as an actual author. But when third edition stuff was happening, he wrote and created an entire world and was actually in the running for who was what setting was going to be chosen, because they chose Greyhawk or whatever for third edition, that kind of setting, because they opened it up to people and were you could write the next big setting for D&D, and he was in a finalist for that.
That's
and
cool.
so he spent a lot of time creating worlds and writing books and all of that. So definitely even in the games, he ran for me and my friends in high school. Our character stories were chaos and didn't make sense. We one of my friends played a dwarven barbarian who he had found an undead chameleon that lived on his shoulder. No one else could see it, but it talked to him. And he would just talk to it, and we would be like, "What is going?" We would be like, "What's going on?" Our characters, and they would be like, "Oh, that's just my friend so and so," and we'd be like, "Man, that dwarf's just seeing things." And we all had these really in-depth backstories as teenagers and high schoolers, and so that's always been drilled into me as backstories and your character arc and all of that. And I played in a few games last fall where it's just "Oh, here's your 3 sentences of backstory," and I just go, "Okay." They're "I have 3 sentences of backstory." I'm like, "Okay, I need more character motivation." Why is my blacksmith leaving her shop to fight cultists? Come on, you gotta give me something.
As a DM, it's always nice when players give you a nice amount of backstory to work off of. But I think my favorite one so far was is a player we had named Prim, and she wrote a nice little backstory. But the most important parts that we found the entertainment value from or initially was the list of 5 ex-husbands that she had. And then she bumped into one of them, and that was and I was working on having her bump into at least 1 or 2 more at some point somewhere else. And they have, one of them was really, really bad. A couple of them were really, really nice, so it just depends on what it is, so, and I was prepared, depending on what decisions got made and where they went would determine who got bumped into. But that actually probably, putting in unusual stuff like that makes a character seem more real helps a DM as well when you can do it.
So I always try to give my characters actual flaws and stuff for the DM to work off of. I play in a streamed Buffy game, and I play a character that has nyctophobia. So my character has a phobia of the dark, a real she has to make
phobia for a Buffy game.
Oh yeah, no, it's absolutely so much fun for me and so much fun for the DM, and I chose it. I just went, no, my character has nyctophobia. She will start freaking out and having panic attacks if you throw her into a dark room, and I have to roll for it, and it's always so much fun because I know the time that one time sometime soon one of her friends is going to be in danger somewhere dark, and she's gonna suck it up and she's gonna do it. she's going to run in to save her friend. And that is going to be such a good character moment.
Nice.
Yeah, I know, like at least with second edition here, there's not a space for backgrounds, bonds, flaws, and all that stuff on your character sheet. It just doesn't exist. But one thing I usually just tell my players is just the only thing I really want to know is why your character is adventuring. Why did you leave the comfort and safety of your home? Beyond that, it's like I always encourage them not to put the most interesting things that have already happened to them and to wait for those things to happen over the course of their character's life. And then as far as how things have changed after lockdowns, I mean, I didn't really do many in-person games beforehand. I work in the medical field, so like finding time is kind of difficult as it is. Not a big fan of playing online, but I just kind of do it every so often because girls got to let out that creative energy somehow. So I deal with it, but I definitely prefer being in person because I like building sets, little set pieces, like putting miniatures together, lighting up these little sets and stuff. And so it's just one of those things that I've unfortunately had to accept for the time being. But ideally, I'd love to have an in-person group again.
My current character that I'm playing right now has a insert number here, number of siblings that I won't share because that has not been revealed to everybody yet. But they all got written into her backstory. But what was really one of the things that I did that I think was good was that I put them in like various different settings, like, oh, this one's in a large city, this one's in a small town, like, so that way, like, it could be really anywhere. Like, my reason for being somewhere could be like, oh, I went to that large city because I was going to visit my sibling, so when the campaign started and everybody was like, well, what are you even doing here? Why are you in this large, like, massive city? And I was like, oh, well, this is where my brother lives. I was coming to visit my brother. And it made sense. Like, it tied into my backstory because I didn't give them a set location. It was just they're in a large city. So I put them in that city. And then it was great because our DM was able to tie that in with something that was going on in town anyway. Like, oh, this is where you found your brother. And so everybody was like, oh, okay, So I think when you can make it so that, yes, there's a history for your character, but it's vague enough that you can sort of weave in and out of it, to help make the story a little bit richer for the players. That's when I think is really like kind of that key point, because you can keep the characters invested because they'll be like, oh my God, that tied into my backstory. And now they're really invested. Like, they want to know how their character is affected by whatever just happened. So yes, Katie, my poor kidnapped brother.
Oh no.
It becomes that collaborative storytelling thing
Right,
as well.
exactly.
Which every table wants, really. But it's interesting listening to you all because, like, I realise I don't use it enough at all. I think it's one of my faults as a DM. Like, I'm good at improvisation. I'm good at when I'm actually in the session and taking it anywhere the players want to take it. But in terms of, like, utilising the backstories, I tend to neglect that quite a lot, really. It's made me think about whether I want to bring that in from now on, from the Mondays, because I've already got these really, really, really in-depth backstories from all the characters about the history of vampires in the Ravenloft setting, and they're kind of like malice they feel for them, but I haven't brought it into the actual campaign yet. So you've kind of inspired me, all of you. Going to bring that in.
One of the techniques I use that I borrow from Sly Flourish's Lazy Dungeon Master's Guide is he has a thing where he reviews the characters just before he starts his session planning. And he picks out, gives you the opportunity to pick out something from their backstories to potentially bring into the story as you go. So you try that out. I think you might find some value in that. You don't have to do it for every single character.
Yeah.
But if you're reviewing it, you can say, okay, I did something for this character this time. Maybe I got something to session 2 later here with this. And you can see how you can tie it to the story that you're already telling anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good tool.
Like it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Zeal Zaddy asked a question, and this will probably be a good one for us to start thinking about wrapping up on. What is your favorite non-fantasy genre? Or for Mel, what's your favorite non-horror genre to run?
Getting called out.
Wait, is horror not fantasy?
I mean, it doesn't have to be. So
All right, that's a loaded question, but I'll go ahead and get it out of the way since I was targeted specifically here. If you're playing a game at my table, horror will be in it. There's no questions asked. So horror is always a genre that's coming in. But fantasy is by far my favorite, like, wholesale genre to play in. And sci-fi is a very close second place.
I really like the whole slightly modernish setting, but something is off, something is different. Monster of the Week is probably like beyond like D&D and things like that. One of my favorite things to run because it is so GM friendly. With like, I literally, if I have to run a Monster of the Week game, I have half a page of notes. I have this is the thing. This is what happens if the players don't do the thing. Here are 2 locations and a bunch of NPCs. I'm going to sit back and just let things run. I ran a 1930s Monster of the Week for Goblets and Gays, which was fun because it was set on a movie set and everybody created their like little like movie characters and stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
And that one was just, it was a lot of fun. And especially there were times where I just would sit back and not say anything for 5 or 6 minutes because they were just going, and they were like, it was just gold, and it was great.
I'm a bit similar to that. I think my favourite movie genre genre is the coming of age films or movies. So I like TTRPGs, and Inspirals is very much a coming of age kind of game, like Kids on Bikes, things like that. Tales from the Flood. Really enjoy them. And like Monster of the Week, I want to get into Monster of the Week because it sounds very similar as well. Yeah,
I've heard good things.
I played in like I played an almost year-long Monster of the Week campaign that ended. It started shortly after quarantine started and like ended in January, and it was such like we were teenagers at a summer camp.
Yeah.
And it was
Perfect.
summer, and at the end of it, summer ends, and all of these things, all of these monsters that we fought, and all of these bonds we've created over this year. It was a moment, and it definitely everyone kind of cried a little bit.
Nice.
It's like we're gonna see each other again next week, but we're emotional because we're starting a different campaign next week. We're emotional to say goodbye to these characters.
Which leads me to my favorite. I love any genre that's going to make me cry midstream or mid-game. Hit me in the gut with all the feels the entire time. It's a wild ride. I live for that. I love how some DMs are very skilled in, combining music as well as backstory elements, even guest stars, to evoke such emotional outbursts from players that, for instance, I played a character, Madrian Wolfheart, in Open for Adventure on their first Dawn campaign. Madrian was a father first, adventurer second. He had 3 daughters and a wife who he would send every day, even though he was going out to war to save the world. And in the second to last episode, the guest star who I had been sending and had been responding this entire 12 session game was guesting, and it turns out that the ritual we needed to save the world needed a sacrifice, and without telling me, they sacrificed their character. And being able to look at all the 4 other players and see all of us just kind of crying and having this very raw emotional moment is just probably my favorite session ever to date.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I played in, I ran for a short period of time a superhero game, and it was one of the characters, reasons they became a superhero was they lost their sister, in like a supervillain attack. So that's why they've been doing this. And it turns out their sister didn't die, but like was kidnapped and was part of like some weird Weapon X program. And so her thing became, I've got to find her. I got to figure out what happened to her. I got to save her. And it turned out there was like essentially what is like a ticking clock on her, because whatever they'd done to her was a little too powerful and she was dying.
Mm.
And so she gets her sister back, but unfortunately it's a little too late. And she gets to say goodbye this time, but her sister does die in her arms again. And it was such an emotional moment. This was like 12:30 at night. We went on so much longer than we'd initially attended, and everyone was crying, and I was trying to stay in character, desperately trying not to cry. It is a story that we still tell like all the time. It's because it was such an emotional moment, because I think it was going to be such an emotional moment, but this person was like, this is what I have to do. I have to save her. And like during that session, did things that came back to haunt her later, like endangered her friends recklessly to save this person. But in that moment, it was just, they got this moment together. She got to say goodbye, and her sister like got to know that her sister was proud of her.
For me, it may be a little different. So if it's non-fantasy, if it's a TTRPG, it's probably going to be like Star Wars, in the vein of space western or space opera. That it is. If it's not a TTRPG, because non-fantasy, I actually play and develop in some very serious war games that have been used by Department of Defense and some other stuff too. And I really enjoy a good war game when it's entertaining and fun, and you can do those kinds of things. But that's really, between TTRPGs, which lets me get out all that creative and fantasy, fantastical, sci-fi, stuff out, and then you've got the very serious, very real, war game side of it, which is completely different, and you're like fixed in, because if you're not 100% engaged in that game and gamified in that game, you will lose that game, right? And the consequences are, hey, we learned a lot about what not to do, right? But or the consequences are, we won, but at what cost? Or the consequences are, hey, we won, and look, we did it really well, and nobody died, or minimal people were injured,
Yeah.
And those can be very emotional too, when you realize, hey, I have to make a decision because you're looking at it and you're like, do I decide to commit an entire division to this flank, knowing that it'll save the rest of my army, but knowing it may eradicate, 5,000 men potentially. Seriously putting them at risk.
Yeah.
Men and women, sorry.
That very...
Because yeah.
I was going to say that very sort of age as old as time moral dilemma of, the good of one versus the good of many kind of thing.
Exactly. So you have to make very, very tough decisions in these games, and sometimes they're political, and sometimes they're not. Those are the very real side. But when it comes to non-fantasy, which is a lot of things, I think sci-fi scratches that itch for me in a different way. I get to play in a different style, a little more intrigue, a little more smuggler, blasters. I want blasters, right? And whatever equivalent of a space witch. Or space warlock that you want. Oh wait, Jedi. Sorry. But generally speaking, that's what does it for me.
All right. I was trying to think if there was anything I wanted to add, but I got nothing. We are at about the time that we're going to start wrapping up. So thank you all so much for coming to hang out. I really appreciate you taking time out of your weekend to come and hang out and chat nerdy with me. And so what I would like to do is I'll just go around again and have everyone remind us of who you are and where we can find you on social media. I'm going to go in the reverse order from when we started. So Aubrey, we're going to start with you.
I am Aubrey. You can find me personally on the internet at Mad Queen Cosplay, and I run both Goblets and Gaze and AnimamAgere. Goblets and Gaze, Pathfinder 2e, set in a homebrew world. It's a lot of fun. AnimamAgere is City of Mist, inspired by Persona and for my love of horror.
Excellent. Well, thanks again for coming on and hanging out, and it was nice to get to know you a
Thank you
little
for
bit.
having me.
Yeah, definitely. Rich.
Yeah, I'm Rich. You can find me on Twitter at HatchlingDM. That's where I do most of my social media and communications. We got an Inspirals Facebook page and a Discord. Probably links in the chat, I imagine.
Yep.
Yeah, the book's going to be out, the PDF and book will be out in June. So let's all learn sign language together while having fun with a TTRPG.
And it's a lot of fun. I can vouch for that. I really liked the character creation concept when we were doing that during the play testing that I got to do. So, yeah, I'm excited for that. Can't wait.
Thanks for having me on, Luna.
Yeah, thank you for staying up super late to hang out.
Yeah, it's only 3 a.m.
Only.
Oh my god.
Reed, we'll go over to you next.
I'm Reed. I'm at the Games Tavern. You can find us on social media at the Games Tavern in Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can find us on Patreon by looking up the Games Tavern at patreon.com/the Games Tavern. You can find us pretty much anywhere else that you can find the Games Tavern on the Games Tavern just by searching us on YouTube. And we're all one word, twitch.tv/the Games Tavern. You can find me personally at Warrior Streak, either on Twitter or Warrior_Streak on Instagram. Happy to talk to everybody and be sure and reach out. And I will be dungeon mastering Whiskey, Magic, and Destruction, which makes its triumphant return after 30 episodes and a short hiatus on Thursday, 29 April. We'll be seeing that show make its dramatic comeback, as well as quite a few other new shows this year on the Games Tavern Network.
I know. I'm excited to see what you've got cooking. You've always got cool stuff over there. So
dirty deeds. That's all you need to know. That's
Are they done dirt cheap though?
That's fair.
If your coin is made of gold, you never know.
Yeah. The other thing too, I just want to shout out, Reed and I had talked about it a little bit, and you'll see a lot more coming up probably pretty soon, I would think. Reed's channel, Shared Experience channel, and several other channels, you said, correct?
Oh yeah. We've got quite a few. We'll mention that on social media. Just watch us. Trust me, you're going to want to see this stuff.
Yeah. So we are all teaming up to do a fundraiser coming up in May. Tales from the Tavern will be part of it, as will our Star Wars stream on Tuesday. And we are going to be doing a fundraiser for No Kid Hungry. So be on the lookout for that on social media. I'm really excited about that one. Great nonprofit, doing good things. So awesome. Yeah. We will definitely spread the word.
14 through 18 May will be all the different streams that'll be pushing that. And
yes. Yeah.
We can't thank everyone enough for pitching in, because who wants to not feed hungry kids, right?
Right. So true. All right. Mel.
So you can find me at Meliora Henning and meliorahenning.com. You can call me Mel for short if it's easier for you guys. Whatever, it's all chill. If you want to keep an eye on my world building and see how a setting built in 2E is going to look, then follow me, see how things are going. Or just watch my low effort selfies and shit posting that I do. So yeah, whatever, man.
And you post art on occasion, right?
On occasion. Sometimes I do art. Most of the time it's just me like having a laugh. But whatever. Everybody seems to enjoy it. So I'm doing something right, I guess.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on and hanging out with us tonight.
Thanks for having me. I'm sure Reed is happy that he wasn't roasted today.
Yeah. All the flames and fire and brimstone that I was promised, it just didn't happen.
Well, I'm in a pretty good mood today, so you got out easy.
Yes. Yeah. You guys should have seen them on Twitter and in the group chat. Oh my gosh.
Oh, well, I mean, you start photoshopping stuff in. I'm like, all right, it's game on.
It's on. Game on. That's right.
Yep.
And Graham, we'll head to you last, but definitely not least.
Hi everyone, I'm Graham or GraemCrackerz with a Z. You can find me on my own Twitch channel every Tuesday and Friday, where on Tuesdays I DM 2 separate campaigns in a homebrew world with 2 separate casts. On Fridays I play on my channel in a game that I don't have to run, which is spectacular. Every other Saturday you can find me on Polished Cryptids channel, where I play a pirate tiefling warlock, because why not? And in May, you can find me on 2 new projects, so you'll have to follow me at Twitter, GraemCrackerz1.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on and hanging out. This was a lot of fun. Great to get to know the new people that have come on for the first time, and always nice to reconnect with the people who have been here before. So I am GamerMomLuna. This is Tales from the Tavern. We are here every Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time, and we do a whole lot of nerdy chatter, and we take all our questions from chat. So we'd love to have you come back and hang out with us. Tuesday nights we have Star Wars Ripples in the Gray, which is our Fantasy Flight games. That's a homebrew story that is set in the Star Wars universe, also at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And on Wednesday nights, we have 50 Shades of Crimson, which is our Pathfinder First Edition campaign. And that is coming back after, we were off for a week, and then we were back for a week, and then we were off for a week because somebody, Katie Machin, had to take a vacation. So so we're excited to be back and getting back underway with season 2 of that. So drop by, pay us a visit, and be on the lookout at shared exp rpg on Twitter, again, for some of that information coming up about the fundraisers. I'm making up words now. I need to go to bed. And some of the fundraisers that we will have coming up in the next few months. So we are looking forward to all of that. So thank you all so much for coming and hanging out. We're going to drop a raid. I kid you not, I just found this channel. I don't know anything about them, but it looked really, really interesting. And they're called Skill Check Official, and they are doing the world's first freestyle rap RPG. And I was like, we need to check this out right now.
Yeah.
So we will see you all next Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. Have a great evening, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
All right, we are clear.
That's